what do we want to call it? It's not finding your purpose, but
Like, oh, it's not necessarily finding it, but maybe just like seeking
stepping into
or stepping, yeah, like stepping into it.
or
Yeah.
uncovering or
Mm-hmm.
unmasking.
Unmasking, yes. Okay, I like that one.
Unmasking.
Because like, yeah, you
Because
are
you gotta
kind of
take the mask off.
revealing, something to yourself. Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, that we got it.
There, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
Hello and welcome to Brax will let you know, one voice at a time. And today I have a very special guest. You mind introducing yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Jiala. Nice to meet you.
As usual, we always start off with a quote. And today's quote is, I believe the purpose of life is to live, experience, communicate, love, be human. Life purpose or purposes is subjective. It is fluid, it is infinite, it is personal, it is. So, Jiala, when you hear the term life purpose, what comes to mind for you?
Personally, when I think of a purpose, depending on how I'm thinking of it, whether I'm thinking about it just in my general sense or in more of like a Buddhist sense, I think about it like being the reason that I wake up every morning to do something that I want to do, whether it be like I want to cook a good breakfast for myself, a good healthy breakfast, or waking up to make sure that I take care of my dog, or whether it be like helping somebody that day, or my actual like career as far as teaching or educating. But I think those are kind of like some purposes that I kind of think about when it comes to me being a practicing Buddhist. I kind of shy away from it being about a material thing as far as like me cooking or whatever, and more so just being like reaching nirvana, being able to like detach myself really from like worldly possessions and being able to just like elevate myself spiritually.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. I also wanted to know if you were willing to share your experience with shadow work. I written under that of how it is or how it has allowed you to heal your wounded past to create a clearer presence for your future.
Yes. I actually discovered shadow work from my mom. She sent me a video of a lady named Queen Poe. She's also a YouTuber on obviously, and just in general an influencer for holistic Black medicine. And I started discovering that about 2020, like the beginning of 2020, when I was kind of going through, the trials and tribulations of going through COVID, not having a job, and just being in the house all the time. I started to get kind of really sad. And I felt, again, like I didn't really have a purpose. Like I felt like, what am I waking up for every day during this time? Um, and for me, right now, personally, it's like a journal work. So even though you can practice shadow work in your everyday life, what really, really helps me is actually writing down different prompts. So there could be a prompt that is like pretty simple and it's just like, what are some things that you find being a pet peeve? And they can also be very triggering, maybe, or even more in depth and be like, what is a moment when you felt um, stressed or traumatic? What is a traumatic moment in your life that has affected you today? Like it can be as deep as that. And they're pretty much just prompts that you do and you write and you kind of like discuss how you feel about those different topics. And after doing so, you kind of like reflect on yourself, like, okay, well, how is this helping me going forward? How does this help me to release some of my traumatic experiences that I've maybe gained from the past, or just familial. Like sometimes, you know, we all have like family trauma that like carries into our lives. How do I let that go in order to become a better person, or even just a more higher vibrational person? How do I deal with that in order to like move through it? And sometimes working it out through writing actually really does help for me. Yeah.
So I've seen like practices where people sort of write it down and then they burn it or rip it up. Have you done that, or what is your, if you mind
I
sharing?
feel like I actually have a therapist who suggested doing that, like writing something down and then burning it so that you kind of like representationally show that this is no longer part of me, this thing is gone. But since I am a writer, I like to keep all of my stuff just in case like one time I want to like go back and be like, dang, like I'm like that person who likes to like look back at stuff and be like, wow, I really used to think like that. Okay, I'm grown. Growth. Like so I personally don't. Sometimes I do. I might like rip it out, but it's not often. At least not for this round of shadow work that I've just done. I haven't like ripped it out and like been like, okay, no. But I think like that could actually be a really good practice, you know, for people who can't visualize the representation of letting something go. I think
Mm,
that is pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. And I love the idea. I personally haven't explored that journey yet, but I love the idea of going back and realizing what has harmed you, whether it was conscious or subconsciously. And because I spoke with you on the phone about it, but like those experiences sort of affect how we operate in the present tense and in the future tense. And
Right.
if you're interested in, um, not finding, but searching for a purpose that most resonates with you, sometimes it can be blocked by that past experience. And
Yeah.
so you're not as open or as willing to accept or resonate with that purpose that is for you essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that. And I'm hoping the best for your journey for that. We talked a little bit about signs on the phone. So how do we see signs within spirituality? And the quote that I would not, I wrote two quotes that you said, but this one was follow the signs to your purpose that you said. You mind talking a little bit about signs?
Okay, so I think we also talked about signs being like a channel, right? I remember that.
Yeah.
So I feel personally, depending on what you believe, whether you believe that there is a source of energy, or you believe that there is a God, or you just believe solely in like the universe, there is some driving force behind the way that things work on the earth, obviously, and in the universe. And they're all connected. And in order for them to communicate, you kind of have to like be open and in tune to like realize those things. And so sometimes we think signs could be like, oh, well, I heard this song that said this, or oh, I was walking down the street and I saw like maybe like a street sign that like told me exactly something that I have been feeling, or even just like maybe you're reading a book and you literally like come across something that like resonates with you so internally. To me, those are all signs. Another way that I can kind of like represent signs for me personally is through numerology. I've been practicing numerology, I think, since like 2017. And it kind of just happened. Like, it wasn't something that I was just like, oh, I'm going to look this up and like figure out how to do this. It was kind of something that I started actually realizing was happening, where what's called angel numbers or angel signs were being sent to me. And I didn't know what they meant. And I was like, okay, this can't be a coincidence. So let me like actually look into this and like figure out what this is. And so basically the variation of numbers that you receive, whether you see them on a daily basis or you see them on a car, a truck, on the clock, on your phone, they mean something. And those for me have been the biggest signs in determining like how to communicate with God, because they are specific messages that have specific like, okay, this is what this means, or this variation of this number is like what this means, and it really helps me to kind of like navigate through my life. Really, something else I do is tarot. Not a lot of people, I think, necessarily have the full perspective of like what tarot is. Some people think it's like evil or like witchcraft, or but it can also be really good depending on your energy with your deck. And I use that as signs as well because they have specific meanings behind those cards. And so, yeah, signs come in all kinds of different like variations, but I personally think like you have to kind of like find your way of knowing what a sign means so that you can actually tune in to that channel that we were talking about, to that channel that is speaking to you, whether that be you hear things or you see things or you genuinely feel things. Like signs come in many different versions, I think.
The quote was, "Everyone has their own channel."
Yes.
And yeah, I think we often forget about that part of, like you said, like people who may view card reading as wicked or devil-like, but it's really weird. I mean, it's the same as people like experiencing source through hearing God or visualizing God through nature, or you mentioned visually seeing ancestors and stuff like that. So I think that's super important takeaway of not only does everyone have their own channel, but each sign is specific to them in any regard.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is.
So the question I have for you was, for those who are wishing to find purpose, or who may have been a bit hopeless right now, what is one next best step for them, do you think?
This is probably going to be a little scary. But honestly, just sit with yourself. Like, I think people are so, at least right now, especially because we outside and we like all are trying to be like more social again. I think genuinely just being able to sit with yourself and start to become like used to just your own thoughts, your own presence, your own like being, your own energy definitely helps you to kind of like take a step back and be like, okay, wow, I think something is trying to connect with me, but I don't know what, I don't know where, but I'm open to the idea of learning about it. And I think that comes from being by yourself, just because when you are around other people, you do tend to absorb their energies or their ideals sometimes. And so really just sitting with yourself and then studying like what you're asking for, whether you are, looking for some answers as far as like a relationship or a job or just about yourself, like how you can heal yourself. Knowing exactly what you're asking, that definitely really helps you to become in tune and at least start to seek for that purpose in your life. Because like I said before, all things work together. So if you want something so much, the energy that you begin to vibrate out is going to be attracting that exact thing that you're asking for. So just being able to do that and be by yourself with that definitely could be like the first step into like really seeking the purpose that you're asking for in your life.
What does being by yourself look like?
It could be anything, really. It's kind of hard because now that I'm so used to okay, Keith, it's just a whole screw of geese that just ran past. It could just be like maybe taking a walk by yourself or just sitting outside of your house or inside of your house. If your house is like your vibe and you like your house, maybe just sitting on the couch for a minute and being like, ooh, okay, let me take some time right now to just be by myself. Like not on your phone, not being distracted by your TV, like not on a computer, just genuinely sitting with yourself. And it could be very boring. The very first couple of times you do that, you're like, what am I supposed to do? But like, I feel like that. Or even if you're like, if you don't have time for that, if you're like a really busy person, because like for me, I work a lot. Like I work like 3 jobs. So sometimes the only time I have by myself is like in my shower. Like in the morning, I wake up in my shower, and then that's when I start to set my intentions. Like, okay, what do I want for today? Like, what is my purpose going forward for today? And being in the shower, just like having that steam and that whole like definitely gets you into a whole mood of like, okay, even though I don't have a lot of time outside of today to be by myself, like this moment right here is mine,
Yeah.
So maybe something like that, or it could be really extreme. Like you could take a whole trip by yourself. Like I had just had a friend recently who did that, and she definitely became a lot more in tune with herself after taking the trip by herself.
Can you send me her contact about that?
I love that.
Can you send me her contact, low key?
What'd you say?
Can you send me her contact information, low key?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm high key thinking about it. But I want to quickly shout out Lauren Dent because I saw a beautiful quote on her story, like a few days ago, and I hit her up today, and I was like, "Hey, can you please find this quote that?" And yeah, I told you about it a little bit, but it was about, and shout out to Chandler D Moore on Instagram. The quote read, "My purpose doesn't change, my assignments do."
Ooh,
And I'll read that again. So it says,
that
"My
gives me
purpose."
chills.
My
Yes.
purpose doesn't change, my assignments do. And we talked about this before of how purpose is truly like infinite. Like my purpose could truly be like me just being a loving individual, but the assignments could be me being a teacher, me being a dog owner, me being a YouTuber. But like you said earlier, these things are material, and it's not so. And I think I read a little bit about a few more quotes within it. It was saying how those things can be taken away like that, and then with some people it's like traumatizing. Like it's like, dang, that was my entire life.
Yeah.
And but that's not your entire purpose. That was just your assignment. And I love that because it really resonated. And I think we get so fixated on purpose being this one thing when the purpose can be just an infinite number of yous doing an infinite number of things. So what do you got anything to add about purposes?
That quote gave me chills because it really resonated with me. Like that really kind of put it into perspective, the whole thing of what we're saying. Like even if you are seeking your purpose, don't let the things that you're doing on a daily basis determine like, okay, well, just because I like this right now means that my purpose is any different. Your purpose is your purpose regardless because it's been set up, it's been, planned out. It's and without your control really. But all the things that you do before that are like in order to get you to that point. And I think a really good thing to like note here is that like things change, and regardless of if we like that or not, things are going to happen and things are going to change in our lives. But sometimes that change is for the betterment of you getting closer to what you're asking for. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in the fact like, oh, I don't really want to work this job, or oh, I don't really, want to break up with this person, or I don't really want to, but it's like sometimes things aren't set up for your wants. Sometimes they are literally happening for you, not to you, for you to get closer to that purpose. So I really liked that quote. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. As I normally always in my interviews, I always ask the question of any life advice.
Oh wow.
You willing to share?
My life advice would be like, take a step back, be with yourself, genuinely, honestly, be with yourself in order. Hi, puppy.
Sorry.
And meditate more. Less marijuana, more meditation.
What does your meditation look like?
For me, it can be many different ways. I really like meditating outside. I feel like when I'm outside and I meditate, I get the deepest meditation. But I also like guided meditations because those are the ones that can kind of like get your brain to be like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Because like if you just try to meditate in the silence and you're not practiced, you're just gonna start thinking of all kind of stuff. Like so guided meditations, YouTube has so many guided meditations that are good. Any of them really, like those are really nice.
And really quick to add, like you can like be specific. So sometimes I type in guided meditation for self-love or guided meditation for manifestation, or when I'm trying to manifest like a job or something like that. So.
That is true. You can even do like intentional ones, like or I am meditation.
Yeah, I am.
I am meditations are really nice. You just literally like sit and say like different things that you are. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I'm strong. Like like different things like that to kind of like help you get your brain in the works of like being in that state of vibration. Yeah, I like those. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but sometimes I can even just like, sometimes I can meditate through prayer. Like, so some people who are more Christian, they don't believe that they can have Buddhist teachings. I've had that happen, and I've talked about that with so many Christian men and women that feel like, oh, well, I'm Christian, I can't be meditating, or oh, I'm Christian, I can't be using crystals, I gotta just have my faith in God. And the two aren't separate. Like,
It's
they are
literally the
actually,
same.
a cohesive omni being. Because Buddhism isn't about a singular secular God. It's more about your personal development as a human on the earth. So like, they're just teachings. And so like, meditation is just that. It's just a teaching of teaching you how to be in tune with your body. And like, if you do go into like such a deep meditation that you are like meeting other entities, they're not necessarily gods. And that doesn't take away from the God of Christianity, you know? So I think meditation can also be through prayer. Like, I've also had times where I'm praying so hard about something that, whether it be a good or a bad thing, and I feel like I've been taken out of my human form in that moment to be in tune with my spiritual form through that prayer. So even prayer sometimes can be meditation, for sure.
Thank you. And something that's been on my mind, I never forget it. It was on Twitter, and they were saying how once you sort of find out like your love languages, start implementing it within your own life.
Yes.
And my first love language is quality time.
Me too.
And so yeah, and so being by myself would be most helpful for me. But some people are words of affirmation. So like those guided meditations of the I ams.
We're writing sticky notes, like
writing sticky notes. That will help you build yourself up. So definitely recommend like doing the love language test and finding out which love language is your first or top one, or like top three, but like first one, and then really like applying that to your life to build yourself up. And would you like consider that to be on the spectrum of shadow work, or is shadow work more like internally, like stripping away sort of like the like the I am manifestations, or like the building oneself up, like the healing process?
It could be like the healing part of shadow work, because what shadow work is literally like addressing what we call the shadow self, what we think is like the bad parts of ourselves, but it's actually the lighter part. Because a lot of times what we're wearing on the outside of us, how we perceive ourselves on a daily basis, is the mask that we show to other people. But that person who you are when you're by yourself in a room, vibing with your own vibe, that person is the shadow. So it's pretty much just like addressing things that have been traumatic to you to bring that person more forward, so that you're not just wearing a mask to be protected, but like actually vulnerably, I always struggle with that word, vulnerably being yourself. And so I think what manifestation or the I am statements could be is like the healing part of that. So like, once you've addressed a trauma, or let's say maybe you were in an abusive situation, whether it be familial or domestic, saying things to yourself like, I am a strong person, or I do have value. Those could be like the healing parts of the shadow work. So yeah, they definitely go together for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow, I am speechless. And yeah, and also just like what I was telling you earlier, like my reading earlier, just like everything really connected today. So
I'm so glad
best
we did.
of luck. What did you say?
I said I'm so glad we did this.
I know, yes. Thank you so much for joining us and speaking with us and all of that thing. If anyone wanted to reach you or like see your like being, what can we do to get a hold of you?
Well, you guys can definitely follow me either on Instagram. It's not Jiala. But I also have a YouTube channel where I do kind of explore this work that we're talking about, whether it be the shadow work or the manifestation, yes, meditations. You can also follow me over on YouTube at Solutions, and I'm sure he'll have it somewhere on the screen.
Definitely.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Brax, for letting me be on your cute little segment.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in today. Best of luck on your journeys. And once again, this has been Brax Will Let You Know, where we are using the voices in this world for the change we need in the world. See you next time.